Please join me in welcoming Renee from auction.com. Round of applause, please. Yeah, tough crowd.
They are. So thank you all very, very much. I know I've enjoyed meeting a lot of you and getting to know you through the main DIG meetings. Special thanks to Don and Marty for inviting us here to talk to all of you. And they actually had a really great idea. And Karin was one of the people that I spoke with. Don said, let's get some people together ahead of time so that you can talk to them and find out what some of the areas of concern might be and questions that people in this group might want addressed. And we did have quite a wide range of experience in the people that I spoke to. And Karin, you're the only one that I've actually met in person. There was Bill Yellen and Sally. I'm not sure if Sally is here. Hi, Sally. How are you? And Paul Ree. Is he here? No. So anyway, it was a great idea. It was a good experience. And part of the reason why I'm asking to hold the questions to the end, because in talking to all of these individuals, I think you're going to find a lot of those questions are probably going to be answered right up there. So this is entitled, What do you need to know about auction.com? Whoops, I'm going too fast here. Heavy on the clicker. So basically, I'm not going to sit here and read these slides to you. I know we want this to be as interactive as possible and want to leave a lot of time at the end for all of your questions and get as many of them addressed tonight as possible. But we really want to empower all of you investors to have another pond to fish in. I think of you all as fisher people trying to be politically correct, and there's lots of different places you can go to invest, and auction.com would like to provide another place for you to drop your lines or your nets and hopefully collect some really great projects to work on. And we are trying to make this as transparent as possible and as customer-centric as possible, which is part of why I have the job that I have. I can't tell you how many people I have met that have said, oh my gosh, you're real. You're not just a website. Because we're based in California and we are nationwide. We're starting to get satellite offices across the country. The closest office until today was in New York. We have now opened another satellite office in Marlton, New Jersey, which is also giving us, it's through American Executive Centers, and as a result of that agreement, we have access to a lot of different sites of theirs to hold lunch and learns, to have individual client meetings, have the opportunity for you to sit down with one of us individually, go through the website, answer personal questions, and those kinds of things. So we're really expanding our footprint and our presence, and hopefully that's going to be of value to all of you. So we are really the largest ballroom and online real estate marketplace in the country. We have, at this point, probably 12 offices across the country, and I don't even know how many employees at this point in time. So, and it's growing by leaps and bounds. We're hiring new people every day. So if you know anybody that wants a job like that, you can send them our way as well. But to date, we have done over $50 billion of real estate sold since our inception in 2007, and we had $9 billion done in 2016. Now, some of you, I think Cedric was there, may have seen and or participated in our live REO auction that we had on October 28th. Auction.com used to do those all the time. They haven't done one in 6 years. So this was kind of an experiment for us, and it was very well received. We had over 500 people come. There were 160 assets that went for auction that day. 116 of them sold, which has got to be a record, and it was 9.7 million in real estate sales in one afternoon. So that was pretty exciting for us. Chances are, since it was so successful, you'll be seeing it again. So we now rebranded ourselves at the beginning of the year because we're taking on different types of assets. You know, when people think of auction, they automatically seem to think of distressed properties, and our commercial side of the business is not does not involve distressed properties, and we're also launching what we call 10X Homes. There are 2 cities in the country that this is being test marketed right now, and they're move-in ready houses. They're non-distressed. They can be used as rentals, vacation homes, second properties, whatever you want to do them, more of a traditional type real estate transaction. And so we wanted to get those out of the auction branding. So that's why 10X was developed as our parent company. 10X houses those 2 pieces of business, and now auction.com simply houses the distressed properties or the foreclosures. So that's why we did that. This is just a list of some of the clientele that we have that own the assets that we actually auction online. I'm sure you recognize a lot of those names up there. So the distressed property life cycle, I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. You get the notice of default. It has several options of what you can do in that: short sale, loan modification, deed in lieu of. If none of those options are chosen or are successful, then it goes to foreclosure. So this is piece number 1 in auction.com's puzzle. There's really only 2 pieces of what we do. And the first piece of that puzzle is to advertise for the banks for assets that they are sending to any local sheriff's sale. So pick one. That we're in Bucks County, so we'll pick that one. So Bank of America, for example, would say, auction.com, we have 20 assets that are going to the Bucks County Sheriff's Sale on whatever date it's held. We would like you to advertise those on your website. It's strictly advertising. We have absolutely no connection to that whatsoever. And the idea is they want to drive more traffic to the sheriff's sale, get those assets sold at the sale. And then if they do not sell at those sheriff sales, the mortgage foreclosure sales, to a third-party investor like yourselves, now the bank owns them, and that brings in the second piece of what we do. The foreclosed assets come back to us, many of them, and we auction them on our website. Now, there is no rhyme or reason to which assets are given to us to either advertise or auction once they are actually foreclosed. And even assets that we advertise, they become bank-owned at the sheriff's sale. It's not necessarily a given that that one will come back to our website to be auctioned. It's just kind of what side of the bed does the asset manager at Bank of America wake up on? And they deal them out to lots of different places and lots of different avenues, lots of different auction houses. There are obviously more than auction.com out there. But there's really no rhyme or reason to how that distribution is made. So how many of you actually attend the sheriff sales, the foreclosure sales? A lot of you? Okay, cool. Anybody never been to one? Okay, good one. Has anybody ever been to the one in Philadelphia? No. Oh, there we go. So I always recommend that if you want a nice, entertaining morning or afternoon and you're a real estate investor, you should definitely go check that out. It's a very different animal from any of the other county sales that we have been to, and I'll point out some of the differences when we get to that part. But you all know how they work. They're free. It's a very simple process, easy documents to complete, and as you know, they're all in the process of going into foreclosure, so you really can't get inside to see anything. You just have to drive by and do your best to do your due diligence. We do give you a place to start with that. So if we are advertising an asset that's going to the Bucks County Sheriff's Sale, there's a property details sheet. If you click on that, you will get year it was built, lot size, square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, and then there's a little button that says title information. Whatever the bank has given to auction.com is the information that is displayed on that tab. I get tons and tons and tons of questions about title issues. And we give you a place to start. We always recommend that you do your due diligence in whatever way you're used to doing it. I don't know if any of you have been to Mark Sherby's class about sheriff sales. I was very privileged to attend that in October, and it was just hugely informative. I don't know how he does all of that himself, but he's been doing it for years, and that's why they call him the guru. So if you haven't been to that, I recommend, and you do sheriff sales, I recommend that you go because it was really informative. So it's a place to start your due diligence, and we all know, as Don said, if real estate mistakes can be expensive mistakes, so it behooves you to look into what you're buying. So all of the counties have different rules about what they will accept for payment. Some counties take cash, others do not. There's some counties only take a certain amount of cash, and the rest has to be either by cashier's check, attorney's check, no personal checks, no credit cards anywhere that I have seen anyway. But it really behooves you, if you're going to go someplace out besides what you are normally attending, find out what you need ahead of time, because as I'm sure you all know, if you win the asset, they're not going to give you a chance to go to the bank and get a check and come back. They'll put it back up on the auction block. So because they're all so different, it really makes sense to find out. In some places, it's a 10% on-the-spot payment, and the amount of time that you have to come up with the balance varies. I've seen it as short as 10 days. I've seen it as long as 30 days. So you just really never know unless you look. And most of it is posted on the individual sheriff's websites. So this is how you would search for an asset that's going to sheriff sale. In the drop-downs, create an account for yourself, first of all. It's free of charge. All you need is your name, email, and a password. And then you can sort by lots of different things. So here you would put in Bucks County or a particular zip code that you wanted to look at. But if you were interested in the sheriff's sale in Bucks County, just put that into and search by the county. And then you can go up to the top, and there's a drop-down menu that allows you to just search for foreclosures. So when you get to that list, it's only the ones that are going to the sheriff's sale, and you've weeded out everything else so you don't have to sort through that whole list to find the ones that you're interested in. And that is also, a great place to start your due diligence, as I said before. And this kind of just goes through in more specifics what I was just saying. It differs county to county. So if you're only going to your county, you already know how it works. You're good to go. If you want to go someplace else, it would really be beneficial to either call the sheriff's office or look. Usually it's on their website. So here is the whole thing that we often get questions about is the title. And I'm going to address this in more detail when we get to the online piece, because we really don't have anything to do with that portion of the process in the actual foreclosure sheriff sale. So I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in a minute. And now it's stuck on this slide. There we go. Whoops. What did I miss? Don, I think my clicker's broken. There we go. So goes to foreclosure sale. It does not sell to a third-party investor. Now the bank owns them. What happens next? It could go to a lot of different avenues. If it comes back to auction.com and is auctioned on our website, there's a whole nother process that goes into, or a whole nother avenue of researching, etc. And because it's gone through the foreclosure process, it's usually comes back to, if it's going to come on the website, it will be there for a good 3 weeks, sometimes longer, prior to the start of the auction. So you have plenty of time to do your due diligence. Because most of them are fairly newly foreclosed, and we'll get to that in a minute too, still there's chances that they are not vacant. Many of them, actually probably most of them, are not vacant. Some of them are, but even if the tenants are, or previous owners are no longer physically living there, if their belongings are still there, it's still considered trespassing. So we always advise people, don't try to get in. And if you go knock on the door, you really never know what's going to happen when somebody answers. You know, if it is the previous owner trying to keep their house, it may not be the most friendly experience. So I know there are a lot of you who have told me we have ways of finding out what's inside. That's great. Go for it. But that's not our advice. So, but now many of the liens and such, because it's going through or has gone through foreclosure, are being removed. So the chances of having a free and clear title are better than they were prior to foreclosure. But again, that's not something that we guarantee. We always tell you, do your due diligence. If it's something that you're really interested in and you want to make that investment, it probably behoove you to have a title search done. Mark advocates doing it yourself, and he can give you all the details about how to get that done on your own. I personally would probably just pay somebody to do it. So, but now the banks are pretty motivated institutional sellers. They're not in the real estate business, and especially towards the end of the year, they want to get as many of these things off their books as possible. So the chances of getting a better deal are higher. And some of them, and all of this also is listed on the property details page when you are searching. Now, the drop down where I told you you would look for foreclosures, now you would, in the drop down, you would hit, there's a section for newly foreclosed and bank owned. So that eliminates all the other stuff that you now don't need to look at if you're looking for things that are actually going to online auction. Makes your search simpler. And one feature that we provide for all of you is to do even more detailed searches and create email alerts for yourself. We have thousands of assets on the website, and they change on a daily basis. So it can be very cumbersome to go through all of those, even if you're just putting in Bucks County or a single zip code. It can be very laborious to go through all of those every day to find something that you're interested in. So you can set up an email alert based on your specific parameters. So if you only want 3-2 single-family homes, put that in your email alert search, and whenever anything that meets your criteria is about to go for auction, you'll get an email that says, hey, you should probably pay attention to this because this is something you said you might be interested in. So it makes it a little bit easier for you. This is just a heat map of where all of our online auctions have specific start and end days of the week, and this is how it's divided up across the country. So in the Northeast, all of our auctions end either on a Tuesday or a Friday. But if you're interested in an auction someplace, say if you want swampland in Florida, I can help you there too. So we also are really very happy to say that all of these things, we have apps that if you have a phone or, whether it's an iPhone or an Android, iPad, etc., you can buy real estate. And one of our sort of claims to fame, we usually when you win an asset, you have to submit certain things within 24 to 48 hours. And we had a gentleman call and ask for an extension because he won his asset from his son's soccer tournament in India from his iPad. So there you go. Okay, and this is talking a little bit more about the search. So start your search. I've talked to you a little bit about how to begin that process. And again, it's very easy once you get to the property details. It gives you all of that information. It will tell you when the online auction actually starts. Most of them are 3 days long. They do have some special auctions that are shorter than that, but most of them are 3 days long. And anybody ever used eBay in here? Familiar with it? So there's a countdown clock. There's a countdown clock to the start of the auction. There's a countdown clock till the end of the auction. All of the auction parameters will be specified there as well. So you'll know what the starting bid is. You'll know what the bidding increments are. And then once the auction starts, you'll see the countdown clock start to go. One little special feature that we have with the online piece is with eBay, for example, you get to the end of the auction and, you've been bidding and bidding and bidding and you think you're in, and then with 1 second to go, somebody sneaks in with something a penny more and you don't get it. That will not happen. So when within the last minute of the auction, every time somebody puts in a bid, it resets the clock to 90 seconds. So if two of you are bidding against each other, if Stephanie and I are bidding against each other and she puts in a bid and then the clock resets for 90 seconds, it gives me and everybody else a chance that's interested in this asset to put in another bid. If I put in another bid, it resets the clock, and then that just keeps going until the bidding naturally dies out. So nobody's going to snake it away from you. Thank you for that piece, but I have a couple questions here that people sent. And so this is some of the things that are more of the behind the scenes type of thing. So what happens if you are the winning bidder on an asset? So couple different scenarios. You may be the winning bidder. You may not actually end up getting that asset, getting that property. The reason is, and this is partly why I mentioned the Philadelphia auction, because the Philadelphia auction and their process is kind of similar to the way the online auction.com process works. So we don't know what the reserve is. The bank doesn't tell us that. They don't want it known. Don't ask me why. They don't want it known at Philadelphia. Most of the other county auctions that I've been to, the attorney for the bank will stand up and say, my upset price or the reserve is, or I'm willing to bid up to X amount of dollars. So you know where you can start. If you've ever been to Philadelphia, that doesn't happen. The auctioneer says, the opening bid is blah, blah, blah. Can I get any more? Someone from the audience puts in a bid. Next is the attorney, and everybody who's bidding has to stand up. Next is the attorney puts in a bid. The bidding continues. That attorney keeps standing and keeps bidding until the reserve is met, and then the attorney sits down. And then that is the only way you know that the reserve has been met. And it's kind of similar with the online process, although there's really there's a little flag up above the registration button that says reserve not met. Once the reserve is met, that goes away. Now, you can win an asset without meeting the reserve. So what happens is when the auction is over, whoever's the highest bidder gets contacted by auction.com. You are asked for your 5% earnest money deposit. You're asked to sign the contract and show proof of funds. Then that offer is given to the bank or whoever owns that mortgage. And they have typically about a week to accept or reject that offer. So if you are above the reserve and you're the winning bidder, it's a no-brainer. If you are not above the reserve, but you're pretty close, you might get a phone call that says, "Hi, Karen. What's your highest and best on this asset that you've been bidding on?" And you'll know, oh, I'm close. And you can either say, that's my highest and best, or I'm willing to up it by however much. Even if you say, that is my highest and best, I'm sticking with that, it's given to the bank. They may go ahead and accept it. They may not. If they don't, your deposit is returned, and it cycles back around for another auction, usually within about a week. So, and it just kind of depends on the asset manager at the bank, the day of the week, the tone of the day, the weather. There's, again, really no reason or pattern that we have seen as to how many times these things are going to cycle around for auction. I've seen them go as high as 10 or 15 times before Bank of America finally says, we're not going to get that reserve for this. Maybe we should think about taking something less. So, if people have said to me, well, it's kind of a waste of time. And maybe it is. And that's something that as investors, you have to decide for yourselves. But if it's something you really like and you really want and you are patient, stick with it because you'll probably get it eventually. People ask me all the time, what's the secret to auction.com? Patience. Patience is a virtue. So with another question was regarding cash versus finance offers. So because they're foreclosures, they're very, very similar to sheriff sales. Most of them are cash. But in those property details, one of the categories will say financing options available. If that says yes, then there's financing available on that asset. Seller's addendums is also on this list. Those differ from bank to bank to bank. We have our standard agreement, but each bank has their own addendums, and some of them are more cumbersome than others. And what we have seen and heard from all of you, this is why I pick on Bank of America, they are traditionally the most lengthy and require the most amount of information. Also, DocuSign is a parameter of theirs, which is great. It really speeds things up. But what I'm saying is each seller has different addendums, so there's really no standard in that way. How to gain private funding. Anybody do private lending in here? Okay, that would be it. So we don't really get involved in any of that. We do have some companies that we work in conjunction with, or are friendly with, I should say. We don't really have any financial agreement with any of them, but there's private lenders here, there's hard money lenders all over the place. If you're looking for that type of funding, that would be the place to go. And, you know, certainly Don and Marty and myself and could recommend people to you. Next question had to do with pre-bidding access. So there are more and more assets that have a pre-auction bidding button on the website. If you see that there prior to the auction start date, you have 3 opportunities to enter a bid prior to the auction. So you put in a bid, the bank accepts or rejects, and if you want to go higher, you can do it again up to 3 times. And if they like what they see and they sell it to you before the auction, it's taken off the auction block and there you go. But not, I don't even know a percentage, but I've seen more and more of them go for pre-auction bids. So that would be how to proceed with that. Getting the inside fast track for auction.com properties. What about this upset price thing? There isn't one. We don't have access to that. They don't give it to us, so we don't have any way to pass it on to anybody. And in conjunction with that, in talking to somebody, I might have been Karen, I'm not sure, or maybe it was Sally, we're asking about auction.com bidding up the price. And this is, again, why I brought up the Philadelphia sale, because it kind of works similarly to what the attorney for the bank does in the actual room where these assets are going to foreclosure sale in Philly. They keep bidding until the upset price is met. And essentially, that's what Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citi, Chase, whoever pays auction.com to do that. They set their parameters, because if it doesn't meet the upset price, then it's probably going to circle around again unless it gets really close. Why they want us to do it that way? Anybody's guess. I don't know. Make it more exciting in an auction format. I know it can be frustrating for people, especially when it's going around for 3 or 4 or 5 times, but that's essentially how it works and why it works that way. Okay, now I need my spectacles because this is smaller print. This was from Paul Ree, and his comments were not having interior access on vacant properties. And as I said before, if people's belongings are still in the house, in terms of the law, it's not considered vacant, so that's essentially why. Now, one little caveat to that is that more of the assets are having a real estate agent affiliated with them. So if you see that in the property details page. If there's an agent listed there, call them up. They can get you in. But even though they may not have people physically living there, they're still considered occupied. The buyer's premium. So back when I first started 3 years ago, there was a buyer's premium on everything. And some of it was just a flat fee. Others were 5%. So if you bought an asset for $100,000, you would add another 5% to that, and that would be your the price that you would actually pay for the asset. Over the course of time, we're seeing more and more and more of these assets without a buyer's premium, which I'm glad to see because I know that makes all of you very happy. So we are getting paid some other way, and I don't know what that way is, but it is eliminating a lot of the buyer's premiums. And the ones that are remaining, what I'm seeing is that they are usually a flat fee and not very high. No broker comps on certain properties. So that is true. And again, in the property details, you will see whether or not there's a broker co-op available. It'll say yes or no. And this is a project that we are developing across the country. We want to work more with realtors and get them involved in this process. So as time moves forward, there will be more and more and more opportunities for brokers on these deals. And if you're a real estate agent, the way that works is you and your client both have to have an account. And if you're shopping for your client and you call them up and say, I found an asset on this site I think you'd be interested in, they say yes, they have to register to bid. And when the initial registration happens is when they have to connect their real estate agent to the deal. If they wait until it closes, it's too late. So you have to make sure that you're connected before the auction is over. So when they first register, you want to connect the real estate agent and then go through that process. I've known people who have had their real estate agents bid for them. However you want to do it is fine. But then when it goes to closing, if there is a broker co-op, that is when you would get paid. Okay, so this was a question about title companies. Each seller, so each bank, each lender has a title company and a closing company that they work with and that they would prefer that you use. That said, and of course it's cheaper if you do it that way. However, if you have a title company that you like and want to work with, you are more than welcome to use that company instead of whoever the bank says you should use. And you should ask about that or make it known when the initial contracting is done. And let's see. So another question that I had from somebody or a conversation that I'd had from someone, and I apologize that I don't remember specifically who did this, was another auction company that they dealt with, not auction.com. They won the asset and they felt like they were passed around to a bunch of different people, and the closing people were in India and didn't speak English, and it just made it very complicated and a long drawn out process. Now, I cannot speak to what other companies do. I have no idea. But if you are the winning bidder, what will happen is you will immediately be contacted by someone from our staff in California with the next steps of the process. And within 24 to 48 hours, you will be asked, as I said, to submit your 5% earnest money deposit, sign your purchase agreement, including all those wonderful addendums, and submit proof of funds. That goes to our contracting department. You will have a specific contact person with a phone number and an individual to handle your case during the contracting process. Then it moves over to our closing department. And again, your case, and all these people are sitting in this ginormous office in Irvine, California. So they all speak English. But you'll be handed over to the closing department. And again, you will have your own individual representative that will handle your case until you go to closing. So you do have direct contact. And I think the only other thing that I forgot to mention before I take questions is the registration process. So you see an asset on the website that you would like to bid on. You have to register to bid. So, and there's a little button that says register to bid. You push that button. At that point in time, we take a $2,500 hold on a credit card. That doesn't go anywhere. It's very similar to when you check into a hotel or rent a car. It's basically to prove that you're a seriously interested bidder, and also, believe it or not, this has happened, that it's not some 14-year-old sitting bored on a Saturday and decided that buying real estate would be a fun thing to do. So, right? Monopoly money, exactly. So that is why we do that. And yes, I have heard from people, if you want to bid on 5 different properties all at the same time, yes, you do have to put $2,500 on each. We are working to eliminate that. It's a work in progress. So I think that's the only thing I forgot to talk about. So take it away with your questions. Yes?
Since you're in California, is the time zone?
I'm sorry. Could you use the microphone right behind you there, please? We want to record it.
For the recording.
My question was, since you're in California, is there a time zone consideration to get all this paperwork through if the auction is over at, 10 o'clock in the morning? Mm-hmm. Well, we're done here, we're ready to go, but you don't even open up until lunchtime.
They actually have earlier hours just for that specific reason. There will be a little bit of a delay, but not the 3 hours that you're thinking. So yes, they do accommodate for that. Those poor people that come in at 5 a.m.
Any other questions?
Anybody else?
Yes. Please stand up and grab a mic. Al?
So if I use the bank's title company, they're going to guarantee me a clear title.
Your company will guarantee you a clear title. Is that what you're saying?
You say they prefer that I use the bank's title company. Mm-hmm. Most banks do. Mm-hmm. Makes it easier for them.
Right.
So if I use their title company, then they're going to guarantee me a clear title.
They will not. Auction.com will not guarantee it.
Right.
Okay.
So that's something I'd have to deal with the bank.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions? Yes. Tom? Please use the microphone. We'll try to arrange to have more space between the tables next time.
I just wanted to try to clear that title issue up. If the title is clouded at the time of the auction and I haven't had a title search done on it, and I end up and I own the asset, anything on that title is mine then? According to the auction.com rules, it is, right?
Yes. Yes. Now, with the caveat that, let's say you do have a title search and it comes up clear, and now you're proceeding through the closing process, and you get to the closing table and something else has popped up. If that cannot be rectified, auction.com will give you the opportunity to walk away from the deal at that point in time.
So say I don't do a title search prior to the auction and I win the auction, I win the property. And
That's your risk.
that's my problem then, right?
Yes.
So every property, if I'm serious about it, should have a title search done prior. Otherwise, you could own the issues that are on that title. It could be.
You could. And the things that we see most frequently, honestly, I've rarely heard of titles that have extra things added on to them. Most of them go through very, very smoothly. And I know there have been a number of people in DIG that I've spoken to personally who have confirmed that the titles usually are not an issue if you do your due diligence, of course. But the things that we tend to see if there are issues are things like HOA fees. But there's a statute of limitations on those. So it kind of depends on where you are in the process and how long this asset has been on the auction block, so to speak. So if it's over in Pennsylvania, it's 6 months. So if it's been around for over 6 months, you're not responsible for those anyway. Municipalities are another one that has cropped up, and the IRS is the other one. If there's an IRS lien on it, they have 120 days to come back and ask for that money. Most of those things are known ahead of time. So, but things happen.
So on any property, you'd have to do a title search to make sure you wouldn't run into that
I would.
prior to the auction.
Yeah, I
Okay.
would.
Thank you.
Definitely. You're very welcome.
So, in the Bucks County Sheriff's sale, I don't know about Philadelphia or some of the other counties. If you win the asset and you put your 10% down, and then 10 days later you pay the balance, the sheriff will provide you with clear title, allegedly, if there is a clear title, in 60 to 90 days. Okay. So in that 60 to 90 day period, you have an asset without necessarily having a clear title, but you end up with a clear title at the expense of the sheriff's office. That's part of the fees that they charge. It doesn't sound like auction.com provides the same. So,
Go ahead.
yes, well, so that's a big issue, right?
Okay.
To spend $2,000 or $3,000 for every title search for every property that you bid on gets to be expensive. Is there some discounted title company you guys work with?
Again, we have relationships with companies that do this, and from what I have heard from the individuals there, it's more along the lines of $200 or $300 for a full title search.
A full title search.
That's what I've been told.
Does anybody in the room
I don't
have
know.
experience with
Anybody? It's not my area of expertise.
I've heard you have a relationship with a title company that...
Yeah. Tom, you want to clarify that? No.
Well, I think we're getting a little confused.
Okay.
When you say a guaranteed title search, they're guaranteeing the title. I think you're looking at that 2,000 to 3,000 range. Again, in Pennsylvania, dependent upon the price of the house. Okay? What you're doing is a title search, which, from what I did, the brief time that I went to the Bucks County Sheriff's sale, was in the area of about 150 to 300. But they're not guaranteeing me anything.
They're just providing you the information.
Right. I think that the term is, and if I'm wrong, anybody in the title business here is a bring down, a title bring down, where they go through and see everything that's against that that deed, and then gives you an idea. Like you said, things do pop up.
I honestly would recommend talking to Mark Sherby because he is so knowledgeable in that area.
Yeah.
And the class that I went to, he was giving us a kind of a list of two different scenarios about, with a first and a second mortgage and who actually submits the foreclosure and where things stand in terms of preference when the payoff is made. And there can be a drastic difference depending on who files for the foreclosure, who owes how much money, first mortgage, second mortgage, who knows the mechanics liens, et cetera, et cetera. So the scenarios can differ widely. But I mean, personally, I would pay for the title search if it's something that you really want.
So, Al, are you making a distinction between a title search versus title insurance?
Correct.
Which is the $2,000 to
Right.
$3,000 deal.
Correct.
So just
the insurance, when you sit down at the settlement table and that title company guarantees everything from that day backwards, that's a title policy that you leave the table with.
right. That's different than just the search.
Just the search.
Just a search, but as you said, things can pop up. Municipal liens especially, you could deal in a certain township and they're a little late in getting their liens in and things like that.
Right.
Marty? Go ahead.
Okay, I swear I was listening, but I could have missed
okay.
this. Once somebody wins the bid, are they obligated to use auction.com's title company to close?
No, you can use and it's not auction.com's company. They differ from seller to seller. So Bank of America has theirs, Chase has theirs, Citi has theirs, NationStar has theirs. We are simply the platform that pulls all these pieces together. We don't have a title company. We don't have any of that. We don't own any of these assets. We are just providing the vehicle for you to shop. If that makes sense. But yes, you can use whatever title company you would like to.
Okay, thank you.
So this might be beyond your scope, but I just wanted to clarify. I'm not sure if it was Al or Tom raised this question. If the bank holds the first mortgage, okay, and there's an IRS lien, does the IRS lien come ahead of the bank's first mortgage? Or is it in...
I think so.
Tom?
I think they take priority. I'm not 100% sure.
Tom,
I could get out my little book that Mike...
Well, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. Al is a banker. You want to answer that? Grab a mic.
Look what I have.
Karen, please use the microphone. My shirt tells me to tell you that.
Let's see here.
This may be the blind leading the blind, but I've been reading Mark Sherby's book, and according to Mark, the IRS is actually considered a junior lien, and if there's money left over at auction, at the time of auction, the IRS is paid. However, if there's no money left over by the time they get to the junior liens, the IRS has 120 days to come back and say, I want my money, and they can repossess the house at that time. However, they would pay the buyer whatever you paid at auction for the property plus interest. So it's, but that's rare to have
It's very
happen.
rare that it
So it's sort of,
happens.
everyone is afraid of the IRS, but they are in a junior lien status. And if they do come back, they only have 120 days to come back. At 121 days, they cannot come back to collect the money. And again, if they take back the house for payment, they will pay you what you paid plus interest. Yes. If you can add more clarification,
If anybody
all the
wants to
better.
actually look at that, I have Mark's book here.
About that is that if you've already started renting, that means you can't start renting
Oh,
for
you
120
can't start
days.
renovating, right. That's the
And-
caveat. It's best not to start renovating for
That's
120
holding
days, because then you lose whatever you've invested in the property.
Yeah. If the IRS could come ahead of any bank's first mortgage, why in the world would a bank lend money ever? So that's
Right,
what.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's my question. But I
Well,
guess you
but they
just answered
don't.
it.
Yeah, they're
right.
not.
And it's, from what we've heard, it's rare that that actually happens. Very rare.
Unless it's your deal, then it will happen. It falls under the category of shit happens, you know. Yeah.
Exactly. Delete that, would you? No.
Yeah. No. This is real live stuff. Any other questions? Or should we go to Slido? I know there's a bunch of questions on Slido.
Let's see what we
Okay.
got.
So here we go. Okay, so here's, for those of you who have been asking questions on Slido, here's where they are. And you can continue to ask questions if you
Did
want.
I say that?
No, I probably said Christmas party, and I can guess who wrote that. Maybe Marty wrote that, but anyway. Okay, so let's see, we'll start at the top. Hello, test. You don't have to answer that. Okay, so do the banks provide one at a time, or do the banks provide one at a time, or a block of properties at a time to auction.com?
The answer to that would be both. Sometimes they will, let's say they have 25 assets that just came off any given county's sale, they may say, you know what, auction.com, take all of these and put them on your website to auction. They might say, just take these two. They might just say, take one. There's, again, no rhyme or reason. And just because, this is another thing, just because we advertised a certain asset that might be going to the Bucks County Sheriff's sale, if it doesn't sell, it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get it back to auction it on our site. We might not. So
Okay.
both.
Both, okay. What is the process for buying an occupied property and taking possession?
Same as if it's unoccupied. So if it is occupied, you've got one of two scenarios. You might have a tenant that could pay rent, or you might have to get them ejected. So, and I've seen it.
Now,
go
you
both
guys
ways.
said you had offices around the country. Mm-hmm. Do you have large men that come out and help with this process?
We do actually have large men, but I don't think they get involved.
Is that an extra price on the service? Okay.
Bouncers.
Okay. So would that attorney? Who rates? Okay. So would that attorney in an online auction be the bank that is bidding along with bidders to push the bids up? Not sure. I think I understand the question, but it's not quite English.
Essentially, that's a great way to describe it. Whatever bank or lender has given auction.com parameters. So yes, it is physically us that's doing that bidding, but the bank or the lender that owns that particular asset has put the parameters on it and told us the bidding increments are listed on the site, so told us how and when and what to go up to. So we are essentially acting as the attorney that's standing in the courtroom.
I know Bill. I don't think Bill Yellen is here, but he asked me to ask you a question, which was that I think he even had this experience that he bid on a property, the title didn't come back clean, and so he wanted to walk away from the project. But it took a very long time before he got his deposit back. Mm-hmm. Is that a current issue, or has that issue been fixed? Or tell us about how that returning of the deposit process.
Bill and I had this discussion because I don't know if it was him personally or somebody that he knew. The bank did not accept the offer, and it was related to those issues. And it did take an extremely long time. I think he said 4 months for him to get the deposit back, which is highly unusual. And I will say that should not happen. It usually any monies that are received. So when you make your earnest money deposit of 5% when you win, that actually goes into an escrow account. We don't hold it. We don't do anything with it. It goes into an escrow account, and then the escrow releases it if the project doesn't go through for whatever reason. Either the bank doesn't accept it or there's issues like that. But in my experience in 3 years so far, that has not been an issue. Things happen. That was a very unusual circumstance, and it usually does not take that long.
Okay. Well, apparently it happened to Bill or somebody he knew. Okay. When will auction.com start accepting Bitcoin?
I have no idea.
Would you come back to us? Seriously, would you come back to us with an answer
I will.
to that?
I absolutely will.
This gentleman had a question to the microphone, please.
My question is, when you open up and you want to bid something, mm-hmm. you have to put a credit card on for a deposit mm-hmm. or whatever you call it, earnest money. Where does that come in when you have to put up your 5%?
Good
money
question.
When it, you bid, you won. Okay, I need, here's 5%.
When the auction is over, we don't take anything by credit card. So that registration fee, if you will, is simply a hold. And when the auction is over, so let's say it's a Friday end date. When the auction is over, whether you win or whether you lose, that hold is released and the funds become available the following Monday. Same thing if it ends on Tuesday. It takes a little bit longer, then the hold is not released until the following Monday. But we don't actually take any money by credit card at all. It's simply a hold, and it's released whether you win or lose.
Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question? Yes. Okay. Let's see. Next question here is, if an auction property has a major defect that would normally be discovered on an inspection, is there any recourse if something major is found after the project is won?
Sadly, no.
So it's as is.
It's as is, yes. They're foreclosures, yep. Yep.
What-
You have the option to walk away, but you would lose your deposit.
Tom, did you want to say something? Oh, okay. Can you put in multiple zip codes when searching for a property?
Not in the same search. You would have to do them individually.
So there's not a zip code range? You can't do
No,
a
I
zip
don't
code
think
range
so.
from something to something?
Oh,
Or,
we could try it. I don't think so. I think you'd have to do each zip code individually.
okay, that could. So I haven't seen the search screen, but what are the fields that you can search on, if you can recall?
Mostly it's by location. So you can put in a county, you can put in a state, you can put in a specific zip code. I don't think you can't get as specific as you can't put in Fishtown or anything like that unless you know the zip code. So you could do that. The other parameters that you can set up for yourself with those email alerts can be much more specific, and they can be a zip code. They can be property details, so bedrooms, bathrooms, lot size, et cetera, multifamily, single family, townhome, condo. You can specify all of those things, and you can create multiple searches for yourself. So if you are interested in a certain type of asset in Bucks County, but a different type of asset in Philadelphia, you can set up two different email alerts for yourself and essentially search both of those areas at the same time. Let the system search it for you and send it to you when it comes available.
Can you? I forgot the question. Is there a way of learning the auction history? You said before, if a property doesn't sell, it goes back into the
How many
pool
times?
and
That's a
comes
very
back.
good question.
But-
I'm sure we could find that out, but I don't know that I don't think you can do it on the website, but I can ask.
Yeah. Okay. You're on the record, so we'll expect an answer.
You have to
Next.
send me a list of all the things I committed to.
Oh goodness. How quickly will closing take place after the property is won?
Typically, it's 30 to 45 days.
Okay.
And that is when the balance is due also.
Oh, okay. The balance. So we're like in Bucks County, the balance is due in 10
days.
10. Actually, I think it's 10 calendar days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the balance is not due until closing, and typically that's 30 to 45 days.
And suppose during those 10 days or those 30 to 40 days, you then do the title search and discover that it's a problem. What happens? Can you just walk away?
You can, but you wouldn't get your money back.
So you would lose the 5% and the $2,500 down.
No, 2,500. That's long released.
So
That
you
gets
just lose
released
your
the following
5%.
Monday. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That's not much different than.
Yeah. The 2,500
offers.
is cyber money. It's floating out. It's not really real. It's just
Not really real.
Floating around
I'll
out
remember
there.
that. Okay. Any other? Let's see here. Any more questions here? Okay. Yes. Yes, sir. Al.
Just to clarify, the 2,500 is a hold.
is a hold.
And then
It
once
doesn't
the deal,
go
once I
anywhere.
give you the 5%, is that held on my credit card? The 2,500?
No, the 2,500 is a hold, and it doesn't go towards anything. If you are the winning bidder, that hold is released. If you don't win, that hold is released. We don't do anything by credit card other than that hold.
But the 25.
Okay. The 2,500, there's a hold on my credit card. Okay. And then if I win the asset, the 2,500
Is
gets credited
released.
back
To your credit card.
to my
Yep.
credit card. It's not
Yep.
used as towards
Nope.
down payment or the 5%.
Nope.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mike. Wait. I'll turn on your mic,
That
Mike.
would work. Is there any restriction or special requirements for an LLC or partnership to bid?
No. When you put in the contracting, if you are the winning bidder, when you do the contracting piece, you would submit your entity documents for whatever entity you want to use.
So it would be titled to the LLC? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I've actually had somebody, a DIG member, the other day ask me if they could change entities in the middle of the process. And the answer to that question is yes. It will delay the process a little bit, obviously, but if you get into the 20-day or 30-day and it looks like it's going to take a little bit longer and you want to change things, you are able to do that.
Does vacant land ever go up on auction.com?
Very rarely, but it does.
Okay. but
Very
rarely.
rare. It used to, that's how we started, actually, was just with vacant land. But yeah, I have seen it from time to time, but very infrequently.
Okay, and I'd like to know how many hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin Don has to purchase a property with.
I have zero.
That's
I
a
have
new
zero
question.
Bitcoin at the moment. Okay, follow-up question. Karen just asked about vacant land. How about new construction? Is that something that ever goes up on auction.com?
I haven't seen it. I don't know. Another really good question. I mean, if a builder is in the middle of a project and runs out of funds and is foreclosed on, I would imagine it's an option. I just personally haven't seen it.
Okay, just curious. Okay, let's see if there are any other questions. The website has a rental asset class. What is that?
That is something new that we are testing in right now, New Jersey, in certain counties in New Jersey, and I don't remember which one's off the top of my head, but it's essentially assets that come with tenants with the intention of the tenants remaining there and paying rent with a signed lease, etc. So,
Well, actually, that brings me to another question. Could tenants bid to get an apartment through auction.com, or are we off the track? In other words, a tenant who just wants to live in an apartment is going to bid against somebody else, and they'll pay $10 a month more, and somebody will pay $20 a month more.
no, we're not going there yet.
You're not going to go there yet. Okay. Just kidding. Don, would you like
That
to
seems
do that?
a little labor intensive.
Hey, if you're an apartment renter, that might be useful. Yes, any other questions? Any other questions on the screen here? Okay. Any other question? Do you have anything else to add?
I don't think so. I really appreciate everybody's time and interest, and I hope that this was helpful. Oh, I do have one other thing to add. I'm sorry. And Cedric had asked me about this when we first came in. We are hosting what we're referring to as Auction 101, which essentially is a lot of the information that you heard here tonight, but in a seminar format, and that is going to be a week from tomorrow. So on the 14th of November at the Hyatt House in King of Prussia. It's free of charge. We will feed you. We welcome you to invite any of your co-investors that may or may not have been able to get to this tonight, or if you decide you have any other questions that you want to ask, you're welcome to come out and join us.
And does auction.com have a whole series of online pre-created webinars?
Yes.
So we can learn about all this kind of stuff? And if there's somebody that we have questions, if there's is there someone we can call to ask about all these various technical questions? So, yeah, I mean, the things we've been talking about. So that would be you. So tell us about your responsibility. Are you responsible for a certain geographical area, or how does it work?
There's a team of us. There's 5 of us now in this area that are kind of responsible for the 5-county area: Philadelphia, Northern Delaware, and South Jersey. And then there's a whole nother team that's up in North Jersey, Central Jersey, North Jersey, New York. And, we're starting to develop more teams across the country so that there's a face to actually talk to and interact with, and, have these sessions, these educational sessions. So anything that involves the 5-county area, South Jersey or Northern Delaware, would come through either me or one of the other 4 individuals, and I can provide you with their names and contact information if you want.
So the reason I wanted to set this meeting up the way we did, which was to have you talk to a bunch of our members with about their experiences, was so that you had some feedback about the kind of questions that we wanted you to answer. So what have you learned in this process that you didn't know about before? And what will you take back to your managers
Oh my goodness, you guys
to
are really
have them
smart.
make changes?
No, I've learned a lot from all of you, and really appreciate the fact, and I know from talking to Don and a couple of other people, there have been some bumps in the road in dealing with us, and like anything else, it's a work in progress, and we really are trying to serve all of you, because if you don't buy, obviously we don't get paid, but we want to make it easier for you to utilize our services. We want to give you more services to utilize within auction.com. So, we want to be your go-to resource. And the company itself is really making a significant effort. Like anything that I take back to the powers that be, things may not change, but they definitely listen to the feedback from the investors and from the field and try to adapt as best we can. So I appreciate all of you, and
There's
Of
another.
course.
Yeah, there's more questions. Don, did you have a question? Here, grab the mic here. Don. He asked, how do we reach you?
we have an office phone number that is brand new, and I don't know what it is, but if you give me your card, I mean, seriously, it just got installed today over in Marlton.
So Don, you'll
So-
get a
But you can
an
email
with
me,
all the information.
and I will get that information to you, definitely.
It's actually on every email that I sent out. It has her email address. Okay, Marty. Hold on. Turn on your mic. Go ahead.
Should I get closer to the mic? There you go.
You're doing fine.
Stand up, thank you very much.
Oh,
That's who said that?
that was not nice.
You win a prize.
Again, I was listening, but I could have missed this. I have some very, very limited experience with eBay, and they have a system where you can put in your top bid, and then their system will automatically put a bid in for you every time someone exceeds the bid you've actually already made, up to whatever your top price is. And that way you don't have to sit there and wait to see, who's bidding now and what do I have to do. It's just all automated.
Automated.
Does auction.com have anything similar to that?
Not currently, but we are working on that. It's called proxy bidding. And just like you can send a proxy to bid for you at a live auction, we are working on a process to set that up for the online piece as well. I will tell you that even though the auctions are 3 days long, all the action happens at the end. So if you don't want to, you don't have to sit there and watch it. You can put in a bid to make sure that you're in the running, go back and check the next day, maybe put in another one if it's still something within your price range. But the only time you really have to sit and pay attention is within the last 5 or 10 minutes.
And then 90 seconds, 90
And
seconds,
90 seconds, 90 seconds, 90 seconds. Yeah.
until you turn gray. Yeah.
And then it's got to do with the speed of your computer.
Well, that too. Yes. Your internet.
Okay, well, Annie, questions? Anybody else? Sorry about that ringing. Well, we've actually ended on time tonight, which
How about
is
that?
quite amazing.
Thank you.
Are you willing to stick around a little bit to
Yes,
answer more questions?
absolutely.
Okay, we can stay in this
I'll
room
stay
till
as long
about
as
10
you want.
o'clock tonight. It's now just a little after 8:10. So
Thanks,
let's give
everybody.
Renee a great round of applause. Thanks very much, everybody.